All right, smart question of the day. How important is numerical quantification for overcoming or isometric training in general? And this is a question that's popping up a lot now because, of course, Dragon Door is coming out with their new ISO chain. And the big selling point of that is now we can quantify how much force we're putting into our isometrics. But the real question we should be asking is that really important for what you're using isometrics for? Isometrics is like any other training tool, and like all tools, there's no inherent value in it for its own sake. Instead, it depends on how you're applying it and for what objective. Now, to put this into context, let's consider the 4 phases of training in a grind-style calisthenics workout. Tension phase, stability phase, strength or grind phase, and then the finisher phase. Each one has its own little objective, and you can use isometrics, just as you use dynamic exercise, for all 4 phases. But here's the kicker, is with grind-style calisthenics, that strength phase is the only one you really need any quantifiable metrics for. The other 3 are pretty much just kind of freestyle, do them however you like to relate to that phase. So let me give you an example. Tension phase here, we're trying to improve our ability to contract and create tension in a tension chain or a particular muscle group. So for example, if we're doing pulling exercises, we want to make sure we're turning on our lats, traps, rhomboids, rear deltoids, the other muscles behind the shoulder like the infraspinatus, your grip muscles, your biceps, and so on. So for that, when we're using isometrics, we don't need any quantification. As long as you're turning those things on and feeling it pretty good, it's going to work great. That's why things like the ISO Loop, the World Fit ISO Trainer work perfectly good for that. Stability phase, all we need to do is challenge your stability to some degree. Now, I'm a big fan of using dynamic exercise for this for a lot of shifting work because not only does that build stability, it also helps to build a lot of mobility as well. But you certainly can do isometric work, things like one-arm planks. You could do single leg exercises like the single leg lifting or circling and stuff. So that works extremely well as well. And again, you don't need any quantification for that. And the numbers really don't matter. As long as you're feeling that you're getting more of a stabilization effect, it works. Grind phase. Yes, we definitely want quantification here, regardless of the tools you're using. You can do grind phase with progressive calisthenics, weighted calisthenics, suspension training, free weights, weight machines. It really doesn't matter, but this is where we focus on the numerical progression. You want to be adding weight and reps sort of thing throughout your progress. So for that, yes, we want quantification. If we're relying just on how much effort we're putting into it, we don't know how much output we're actually getting out of our muscles. And that's what we have to recognize is output is what gets results. Effort does not. Effort, for the most part, is always going to be the same with isometrics, 100%. But you need to know if that 100% is creating more tension. So you can do that with the ISO chain. You can also do it in the other way that I recommend is with a classic barbell setup with a stopping point. This is how isometrics were traditionally done, where you have a free weight setup, usually a barbell, and you lift a given weight against some sort of immovable object. You can hold it down with chain. You can do it in like an isometric rack or something. And that's a way you can quantify the minimum amount of output that you have in your muscles. So there's lots of different ways you could do this. You don't need an ISO chain for it, but you do want something that you can use to give you a measurable amount of progress. And then the finisher phase, this can it's literally the cherry on top. It's just whatever, just do something to put the last little oomph into your muscles to get them pushed into a higher state of fatigue. And I don't really care how you do that. I don't care what exercise you do. I don't care how you do it. I don't care what tempo or if it's isometric or whatever. You're just basically saying, muscles, you're really worked and tired. Now I'm just going to push you over the edge for this last set or 2. So in the grand scheme of things, numerical quantification with isometrics isn't really that important, and I would even argue with other types of exercises, maybe not that important. But for that one thing, if you're using isometrics as the bread and butter strength exercise for your training, then I highly recommend having some sort of a quantifiable measurement with your isometric training. I hope that puts some clarity into perspective on how to use isometrics best for you and where it fits into your training program. Once again, check out my book, Overcoming Isometrics, for ways on you can get started with isometric training, and thoughts and questions down below. Be fit, live free.